rdapdan here again. I got an email question to me yesterday regarding Rdap. So let's jump right into it and answer some questions here. Got an email from a gentleman by the name of Ryan. Are you the same guy on the Michael Santos Earning Freedom podcast? Thanks. So as some of you know, last week I was interviewed by Michael Santos, who runs a podcast called Earning Freedom, and he does different segments on his situation in prison, how he can help people that are going through prison, how you can prepare for life after prison, basically how to be successful and don't let this be a giant roadblock that's going to hinder the rest of your life. So I replied to Ryan, told him I was the person that he saw on the podcast. He wrote me an email after that. It says, I listened to the podcast from time to time and caught your show. I was curious on how you were able to go from 42 months to 13 months in prison with Rdap and good time credits. I was under the understanding that with a 42 months, you were looking at 12 months off your sentence for Rdap, roughly 6 months off for good time credit, and then an increase to the full 6 months halfway house or home confinement. How were you able to get 11 months of halfway house credit? Ryan, thanks for the question, and I'll be more than happy to answer that for you. Understand a couple of things. First off, the way it works is on 42 months, before you take the year off for Rdap, first you deduct the 15% of the good time. So 42 months minus my good time is roughly 6.5 months, which brings me to 35.5 months is what I would still have remaining before Rdap. Then you add the Rdap to the 35.5 months, 12 months of Rdap brings me down to 23.5 months remaining in federal prison. Minus the 13 months that I actually served brings me down to 10.5, almost 11 months, and the rest of that is what I'm serving right now. So the last 10.5, 11 months is what I'm serving on federal halfway house. There is no special reason. The Bureau of Prisons can give you up to 1 year or recommend up to 1 year of federal halfway house, and depending on the room and the availability of the halfway house you're going to, they can give you up to a year. I was under the same impression of what you're thinking right now is the most time you can get was 6 months, but you can actually get a year of halfway house. And it's not based on anything other than availability, your good time that you've done in there, programming, staying out of trouble, basically not getting any shots while you're there. And let me continue to read your email here. I'm waiting for my plea and sentencing date. I signed my plea back in May 2015, and for whatever reason, I'm waiting for my plea and sentencing date. I committed a white-collar crime, wire fraud, and I'm looking at either 27 months or 33 months at a maximum, assuming I don't piss the judge off. The reason for the difference is we did not agree on the 2-level sentence enhancement for abuse of power trust that the AUSA wants to hit me with, and we'll leave it up to the judge to decide if the enhancement will be valid or if it's double jeopardy. First off, I do see that you said you believe you qualify for Rdap because it's stated in your PSI or your PSR that you do have a drug abuse history. So that will help you get into Rdap. But what you need to be aware of is the amount of time that you're being sentenced to. It looks like here the max you can be sentenced to is 33 months. So the way Rdap works, and these are standard guidelines, and you can verify this online. Basically, to get a year off for Rdap, you have to have a sentence of 37 or 37 plus months. So if the judge sentenced you to 37 or more, you can qualify to get a year off. If the judge sentenced you within 31 to 36 months, you can qualify for 9 months off. And if you receive 30 or less, the most you can receive off for Rdap is 6 months. So if you're going to be sentenced between 27 and 33 months, it looks like best case scenario, 9 months off for you for Rdap, and worst case scenario would be 6 months. You have to have at least 4 months remaining on your sentence once you finish Rdap, a minimum of 4 months, because you need to do a minimum of 4 months in the halfway house. It's transition Rdap. So once you finish the Rdap program, Rdap requires that you have enough time once you finish the Rdap program to still do 4 months halfway house. There's a program you have to do in halfway house, which is 2 days a week. It's basically like an extended Rdap. You continue your counseling for the duration of your halfway house time. So if after finishing your prison time and after finishing RDAP, if you don't have at least 4 months left remaining, you can't qualify for RDAP because they won't be able to send you to a halfway house for 4 months. So the best thing you can do is, as soon as you get in there, start qualifying for RDAP, go speak to the RDAP coordinator of that specific prison and make sure you qualify. There's a lot of confusion. A lot of people, for some reason, give really bad advice on how RDAP works, and I'm not sure where they're getting it from, but I went through it myself, and I wasn't a rare case. I saw a lot of people in there getting the year off for halfway house. I saw a lot of people getting a year halfway house that didn't even go through RDAP. But there was a lot of people in my class alone that got the year off for RDAP and got the year off for halfway house. At the same time, there's people that were down 20, 30 years that just did RDAP, but they only got 3 or 4 months halfway house time, because it has a lot to do where you're going and how much availability and bed space they have at the time of trying to accept your application for the halfway house. So there's no guarantee. Things fell into place for me. I started working it from the minute I walked into prison. I was setting my plan of what I needed to do in RDAP. I programmed every time I could program. I took my GED. I was taking classes. I was doing re-entry classes. I was taking Spanish. I was doing fitness classes. All this stuff is great for your well-being, your health, advancing your mind, but at the same time, it shows on your record that you're trying to take advantage of the system and use what's there in place so you don't come back. If you just sit around and do the bare minimum when it comes time to put you in for halfway house, that might be something they consider and say, this guy hasn't really tried to do much. So make sure when you get in there, don't wait till the last minute to all of a sudden start acting like you're doing what you need to do. Even if you're faking it in the beginning and you're just doing these programs because you think it's going to look better, even if you fake it out of the gate, the more you do it, it's going to become habit, and you're no longer going to be faking it. It's going to become part of who you are. That's exactly what RDAP was for me. I was there just for the year off, just like most people that go there. I'm not going to say everybody, but most people go to it for the year off, or the 9 months off, or the 6 months off, whatever you can qualify for based on your sentence. But a few months into it, it's no joke. It's not a walk in the park. It's super stressful. RDAP is not easy. A lot of people fail it. They quit. They get kicked out. You have to go through groups while you're there, and you're talking about deep problems in group, and if you act like you don't have any problems, they're going to pull them out of you. Your group members are going to jump on you, because if they're sharing their deep secrets and you're not sharing yours, they're going to look at that as not being very fair. So prepare your mind for RDAP if you think you're going to go into it. Don't think it's a walk in the park. Even though it's a drug program, it's more than a drug program. It's changing the way you think, changing the way you act, looking at all of the decisions that you made and why a lot of them were poor decisions and what got you into this place to begin with. So I hope this was informational to you guys. Again, I do appreciate all of the views. I really would like you guys to check out my websites. They seem to be down right now. GoDaddy is who I have it through. I don't know if that's a mistake or not, but they're doing some work on their site, so mine are down. But I have rdapdan.com, which is still a work in progress. federalprisontime.com. federalprisontime.com. That one's pretty much up and running, and all the information on there is informational to help you prepare yourself before you go into federal prison, how to prepare yourself once you're in federal prison, and what to start doing when you're released from federal prison. So again, thank you for watching my videos. Like my video, share my video, subscribe to my video, tell all your friends about my video. Thank you guys. Rdapdan.